Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special safety podcast. This one is on the importance of lockout, tagout of your home personal shrinking device. We're bringing you a very grave, somber news about a story about a man who had one in his house, and he didn't lock and tag it out, and his kids found it, and they used it. They hit the on switch, and it shrunk them. They were actually, I don't know the proper word, shrunked or shrinked down to
I think it shrank.
It shrank. They were shrank to less than the size of a normal ant, and they were lost for a very long time.
One day.
And there was national bulletins all over the whole world looking for these kids, and it wasn't one, it was multiple kids, people. So this is serious. We gotta lock and tag out our shrinking devices. We do not want our kids to die. Now, in this case, luckily, it did turn out okay. They were found. They didn't get smushed. They almost got smushed. They almost got ran over by the lawnmower, and they were lucky they found an ant that befriended them. And they were lucky they didn't get food poisoning from eating rotten Oreos that have been in the yard for, who knows how long. So
I've got it. Everyone, please. I have to jump in at this point. Welcome everybody to the podcast of the Evil Safety Dudes.
What was the problem with my topic? That was a legit safety topic.
Well, because if I didn't stop it at some point, we were going to have to do Honey, I Shrunk the Kids 2, and then we were going to have to do that reboot with the baby, and then we were going to have to, I think it would have just kept going.
But it was a safety issue.
I mean, kind of, but
if
really,
he had locked and tagged it out, it would have been good.
But he didn't need to. It wasn't under maintenance. Maybe the guards weren't off.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
It was just
so maybe more of like a weapon safety, home device storage,
better
safety.
Training.
Yeah. It's still safe.
He probably didn't have a shrink ray policy.
Yeah, it probably had no orientation training when his kids were born on it.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
All right, cool.
He'd introduced new equipment to the home and the workplace, and nobody had training on it.
Yep.
And then you had unauthorized personnel in a place where they shouldn't have been. There was no posters, no marketing.
And they weren't trained if they don't know how to
PPE.
operate something to ask.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there was...
I wonder if there was any safety disciplinary action follow-up. I wonder if there was a write-up added to their personal record.
Oh, wait. I'm remembering more of this movie now. It's been a long time. There was an incident with the baseball.
Okay.
That's why they went up there. They smacked a ball through the window.
Okay.
And then the ball, it somehow, I think it triggered the machine when they went up there.
Okay. So it wasn't even their fault then, huh?
No.
Well, I guess I'm just all off base.
Gosh, it's been so long. It has been a long time.
But what is the real episode today about?
The real episode today escapes me. We just talked about it momentarily.
I remember.
It
is safety orientation.
Safety orientation.
So, but before we get into that, what's new with you, Mr. AJ? I should introduce you. By the way, if you guys don't know by now, I am joined by Mr. AJ Hanscom. He is my partner in crime, all things the Evil Safety Dudes do on a daily basis. He is an authorized outreach OSHA instructor, and he has, as far as this topic today, conducted hundreds of these every year for other companies and built them. So I would consider him a resident expert on safety orientation, implementation, and development.
Man. And I'm joined in the IBC podcast Fort Studio office space
Tent fort
with Mr. Aaron Iacino, who's also an OSHA authorized outreach instructor. Has conducted dozens upon dozens upon dozens of new hire safety orientations.
How come you got hundreds and I got dozens?
I just want to use a different word. I wanted to make it different. So we weren't just mirroring each other.
Dozens can add up to hundreds.
Heck yeah.
But recently you've probably done way more than I have.
I have.
Yeah.
I got to see one of our old posted from our very beginning of creating orientations and stuff. I got to see it implemented. That was kind of cool.
What do you mean?
It was a evacuation diagram of one of the plants we made.
Okay.
And it was part of their orientation. And
cool.
I saw it go through, and I was like, hey.
Nice.
Yeah, we made that.
Yeah, that always makes you feel good. I remember one of the first ones I made for a plant, they had it in the vestibule when you walked in before they buzzed you in.
Oh,
so
sure.
every time I went to the plant, I was like, got to see my work, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah, right?
Makes you feel good. Years later, that is still there, still in place. But then one day I walked in, and it wasn't accurate anymore.
Well,
so I had to tell them. Yeah. But we'll do another one on that because I
Maybe we
really
should.
want to do a whole episode just on evacuation diagrams.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, what's new, Mr. AJ?
Believe it or not, the coolest update I have right now is my spiffy new work polo. I love my new work polos.
That's
We just
good.
got some new ones, and I'm super stoked. They're crazy comfy. They look legit. Like they're nice material.
Makes me look like I have muscles, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Right.
have muscles, but these are really almost like a tourniquet on my bicep
What?
here. Yeah.
I'll eat.
But you like shirts that are too tight anyway, though.
Well, I mean, this is an extra large. I mean, it's not like I'm walking around in like mediums.
Yeah.
This is an extra large. Just
It's
make it
not
look-
quite a Ricky Martin shirt, but it's getting close.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Aaron, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Any
You know,
updates, new stuff?
always got new stuff going on. Fam and I went to a concert, and we saw some of our favorite artists, which was really cool. You know,
Nice.
people we've been listening to forever, and then to see them live for the first time.
That's always cool.
Yeah, it was always cool. So that was a real treat.
Your kids dig it a ton.
Yeah, and then recently I got a train. We brought in Dean Lister, the boogeyman from San Diego, to do a seminar for us.
Nice.
And I got to train with one of the world's top jiu-jitsu guys, you know.
Very cool.
So, yeah, I mean, there's always something going on. And
Did
it
you
was,
try to take him out? Like,
No,
did you go
no.
on, like a friendly sparring?
No,
and you're like,
but see,
I'm gonna do
he
this.
was teaching us a foot lock, like an Achilles lock.
Yeah.
And my partner wasn't doing it so great. So my partner moved, let me show you. And I was the dummy.
Oh,
And
nice.
he did this leg lock on me, and it was like wicked, right? And my wife was there, so she snapped the picture like right when I'm writhing in pain.
Ooh.
And so the picture kind of looks like we're grappling, that we are going at it,
Yeah.
and that he won. So I posted it with just a caption, Dean won,
Nice.
you know, as a joke, because like we weren't competing. Like he's a 4th degree black belt, you know, like I'm not even, you know, will be allowed to compete with him.
Right.
Not in the same class, but it's just a funny picture because it looks like it.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, you still got to train with the guy.
Oh
like,
yeah, it was awesome.
Learn some stuff.
My leg locks are now, you know, to the next level. The minute details that the masters know, you know, he
Right.
was sharing with us, and it was special.
That is super cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, safety orientation, man. I think this is neglected.
Oh, for sure.
What-
I mean, safety in general is just neglected.
For sure, but you
This is
know,
a big part.
even companies that are doing safety
Yeah.
aren't doing safety orientation.
No.
You know, they're doing some training, but it's not safety orientation. One thing that I do a lot of is the mock OSHA
Mhm.
audits. We also call them a same team safety audit,
I did one this morning.
if we want to say it in a nice way. Job site inspections for sure,
Mhm.
but talking about like the full on
Oh, when you're going
audit.
through paperwork,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
training, and
I do those
onboarding.
all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's a free service we provide for client or non-client, and we get to the paperwork, we get to the training. So let me see your annual training records. Let me see your operator certification records. Let me see your safety orientation records.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, I get nothing.
No. Well, yeah.
Just
it's-
zero.
It's easy to inspect because you're like, would you please show me? And they're like, oh, we don't have any. Excellent inspection with that part done.
And a lot of times they're like, "Oh, we got that one," and they bring me back this binder,
Oh, yeah.
and it is an orientation, but it's not a safety orientation.
No.
And it's an HR orientation.
Yeah.
A lot of clients are doing HR orientation, you know, sexual harassment, dress code, ethics,
Drug and alcohol abuse.
yeah, drug and alcohol abuse, how to call in,
Right.
you know, attire, stuff like that.
Disciplinary action.
Yeah, yeah. You know, they're doing that. They're
Right.
some form, if it's great or not, they're doing it. They have a record of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's some sort of onboarding.
But when we look at the safety side of it,
Zero thing. Yeah.
so, you know, what should people be doing? Like, what if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, having that freak out moment, like,
I don't have any safety onboarding.
yeah, we are not doing a safety orientation. Like, where do you start? What's your idea on that?
Well, and this is where it can get really frustrating, is you need to have, I mean, a good generalized list of all of the specific tasks and tools and things that employee might do.
Okay.
You know, are they going to use ladders, power tools? You know, what are they getting on board? Are they going to be office staff?
That's-
Will they never touch
That's a good idea.
any of that stuff? You know, and so you gotta know exactly who's getting onboarded for what.
Right.
You know, or you could go the other way and just make a list for the whole company.
Yeah.
And then everybody goes through it so that regardless,
Yeah.
you always hit them all.
That's easy.
Yeah.
I like that approach, like for, you know, ease.
Yeah, it makes
instead
it
of
easy.
making 20 orientations, but
Just make
sometimes you still
one.
have to. But so along with what you're saying there, an easy checklist already created, if they're at a decent level of safety, would be what safety policies do they have?
Yeah, which policies you have. But that's assuming they have policies.
Yeah, we did one. Have we done one on how to build
Well,
health and
yeah.
safety
I think
policies
we've
yet?
talked about it.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't know
we've
if we.
discussed
I
it
don't know if we
several times.
did one on how to make them
On
or not.
specifically like how
But-
to create that policy.
But OSHA requires you to have a health and safety plan
Yeah,
signed
you do.
by an executive, and you don't want a policy on pile driving if you don't do pile driving.
Right.
So when you were creating your policy list, you're already doing what AJ was saying. You were like, all right, what do we need a safety policy on? Do our guys wear any eye protection, hand protection, face protection,
Yeah.
foot protection? All right, let's get a PPE policy going with those things.
Yep.
You know, fall
That works.
protection. Yeah. And so that could already be your list. So I simplify it if they're already on that level. You know, my standard, good or bad, it's orientation level training. It's not super in depth. I'm like, let's get minimum of 3 slides on each policy.
Right.
PowerPoint slides.
Yeah. You hit the main topics.
The main topics.
Big safety stuff, the takeaways. Like,
Yeah.
really, what should you know?
You could have a 9-page policy on fall protection, but, you know, this isn't personal fall arrest system certification course.
Right.
So we're not getting deep into the weeds on it.
Right.
We're orientating them to fall protection.
Right. So one of the easiest ones to just cover in a slide is, hey, before you can put on a harness, you got to be trained by us.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so they're hearing that, they're like, oh, shoot, okay, so I can't just walk on the job site and wear a harness.
I feel funny
Which is
doing
good.
orientation sometimes
Because you say that like a million times.
because I'm like, click the button, slide pops up, power industrial trucks, you know, forklifts. And I'm like, this is a forklift. They will smash you. They will win if you get in a fight with one. And you're not allowed to operate it unless you're certified.
Right.
And then I
This is-
say a few other things.
This
But then
is not certification.
but then, yeah. And then I click the button. Oh, look, this is a boom lift.
right.
You are not allowed to operate this unless you're certified. And I
Yep.
say a couple of things. Then I click, this is a scissor lift.
Yep.
You are not, guess what? You're not allowed to operate this.
Right. You just
Unless
do
you're
that,
certified.
Like a dozen times.
Yeah, and then you get to the confined space. A confined space is large enough to enter and perform work, not designed for continuous human occupancy, and you have to contort your body to get in and out. And guess what? You're not allowed to go in them until you're certified. You know, and I just feel like
Yeah.
kind of weird. But, I mean, that's every training has a different purpose.
Right.
And that's the purpose of orientation training.
Yes. So
To
they
make
kinda
them
have that.
aware of what stuff is.
Exactly.
Have you ever done any orientation training when the person you're orientating was fresh out of high school?
Oh, possibly. Nothing is immediately ringing a bell, but I've done so many at this point that I mean, I'm sure it's happened.
I've had that a few times. The one client that you do a lot of it for,
Yeah.
the electrical client,
Yeah.
I have to do them every now and then when you're not available. And it seems like I get a lot of like 19, 20-year-olds.
I mean, I've had a lot of younger folks come through there.
Yeah.
But they've been through their electrical class, or they were taking classes at WIT, or they were
Right.
like apprenticeshiping.
Right.
And I don't know if I've ever had anybody that's just like super bare, like nothing.
Right.
Maybe I have.
And I've had it. And so like to them, it's like jaw-dropping revelation. Whoa, that's a forklift? Whoa, that's a boom lift? So to
boom
them,
lift, scissor lift, yeah.
yeah, so to them, you know, they are learning something even at that basic level.
Yeah.
To the people that do have experience come in, you know, this is their 20th job and their 3rd career.
Right.
You know, they're like, oh, yeah, I already know that.
This is hoisting and rigging. Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. But, you know, you got to go through the dog and pony show, you know.
Right.
Let's talk quick about paperwork involved in an orientation.
Okay.
What would you suggest that an employer have as far as records to prove they safety orientated their employees?
So this
Is
actually,
orientated a word? That sounds right.
Yeah.
Orientated.
and this orientated, yeah,
If not,
yeah.
oh well.
Shoot us an email. You guys' grammar sucks. You're like,
Orientated
"Oh,
is not a
thanks."
word. The correct word is orientiminated.
But that is something that Aaron and I always try to go over when we do some of our podcasts, especially like pointed ones about stuff, and we'll try to bring up specific OSHA case studies. And we have actually found that a lot of the times what he's asking is like, what kind of proof of orientation do you need? Believe it or not, that's actually something OSHA asks for.
Proof
So
of life.
when we do those, mine is a little overbuilt. I have a checklist of all the topics we cover, and then they actually have to initial all. I mean, it's like 50 sometimes, depending on the client. How many topics we actually covered in the orientation that has that person's initial under every single topic.
What do you call that form?
I call it the new hire orientation checklist.
Yes. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That checks out.
It checks out. Ooh. And then I have a test. So then after the whole thing's done, we take like a 30-question test. We go over a bunch of what they learned. They sign, date that. And then we have a sign-in sheet.
Okay, so checklist,
test, sign-in sheet.
roster.
And then, depending on the client, I've probably, most of my clients that are actual IBC clients, I've created a new hire manual for them that mimics their policies. And there's an acknowledgement form on there stating that the employee has received that manual. And so they actually sign that as well. So when they leave my orientation, I've got their name on 4 different things saying that they were in that orientation, they learned stuff, they saw these topics, and they have a manual.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
so it's a little overkill, but
I mean, yeah, no.
yeah, I know. Well, because when we talk about OSHA case studies, they ask for that.
We're working one right now.
They're like, can you prove it?
We're working one right now where the client is sitting and waiting for that citation. Because they were there because of a complaint.
Right.
OSHA came in, did an investigation, asked about safety orientation specifically.
And they were like,
the client couldn't produce any documents to prove they did it.
oh, yeah.
And now they're in that waiting. And this was like a month ago. And they still haven't received a citation. Every time I talk to them, I was just out there a couple of days ago. Did you receive your citation yet? They're like, nope, not yet.
Nope.
So they, you're just right. They do ask for it.
Mm-hmm. Every time.
I mean,
maybe
not every time. This one
it's
specifically
frequent.
because it was part of the employee complaint.
Was that there was no training at hire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that documentation package is solid. Now, when you do it, I do it sometimes. I try to make it funny because there's strong wording on those forms.
Yeah.
That acknowledgement form.
Mm-hmm.
And on the bottom of the checklist, I think, it says something like this. I'm paraphrasing. I don't have it in front of me, but it says something like this. I have been taught all these topics. I understood the information. I've had all my questions answered, and I promise to follow these safety rules.
It's I don't know. I don't remember the part about I promise, but it's just and I will adhere.
Yeah,
to the,
yeah.
But yeah. It's like it's wording like that. It's all lawyer jargon.
It's straight up gotcha stuff.
Yeah, it may.
But I pointed out to them on purpose,
so they know.
I go, all right, we just got you. I try to make it funny. I was like, now if you sign this is saying you understand this stuff and you're going to do this stuff.
Right.
So that means when you leave here and you walk out the shop or you jump in a truck and you're at a job site and we follow you and you're breaking one of these 10,000 rules we just told you, we immediately can do safety disciplinary action.
Yeah. And I mean, that's also one of the biggest reasons. And I know that's for the state of, well, actually any state you work in. That's not just for for our state, but for any state you work in. And then OSHA. So, I mean, this goes into, termination of an employee and unemployment and legal recourse and OSHA. But when you set up those rules, and then if you want to terminate an employee or discipline an employee or do anything like that without that orientation there, saying that you told them those rules and they acknowledge that there's those rules, there's actually a lot of stuff that can happen if you're going to go ahead and start enacting those things without telling the employee that those are rules.
For sure. We need to do a whole episode on safety disciplinary action.
Heck yeah.
This ties into it, though.
Yeah, it definitely is hand in hand with orientation.
You go and try to give someone a verbal, a documented verbal, a written. You try to suspend someone. You try to terminate someone for breaking a rule, and you have no documentation that you told them that rule.
Yep. You're
asking for trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of those ways to get out of that potential trouble.
Well, I mean, not to get out of it, but to to make sure.
No, it's straight up getting out of it. I've had it happen. We were building an ethanol plant. OSHA came on site, and there was this guy we just hired. I put him through orientation myself. So I had the checklist, I had the test, I had the roster, I had everything, and I had the checklist, the topics.
Right.
This guy was mad because he wanted to do the fancy job. But the foreman gave him caulking.
Oh, good. So he gets to walk around and seal stuff. And
Yeah, all day long. We're talking 8-10 hours a day, 50-60 hours a week.
yeah, so he got
He
like,
put some like
below grunt
bonding
work.
adhesive, tube and a caulking gun, and he just runs seams between insulated metal panels.
Yep.
And then
It's gut work, man.
Yeah,
It's-
man.
But it's got to get done.
It's grunt work. He's new though. He was
Yeah.
new to us. I don't care his past experience. The foreman's like, you start here, grunt work.
I am a crane operator. Here's
Yeah.
your caulk gun.
Yeah. So needless to say, he was pretty pissed.
Sure.
He was disgruntled employee.
Is that our third swear word?
What was the swear word?
Pissed.
That's not. Isn't I say that? It's not a swear word, is it?
I guess I've always thought it was a swear word.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not counting it.
Okay.
In
So far,
Aaron's
So far, I'm the
dictionary definitions of swear words, that's not in there.
I'm the
yeah.
potty mouth. I'm the bad
Yeah.
boy of the podcast.
So anyway,
he's crazy, man.
he's disgruntled, and OSHA shows up,
Okay.
and OSHA sees a worker using a chemical.
Right.
So they go to this guy, and they're like, "Oh, you're using a chemical. Have you read the safety data sheet?" Back then it was MSDS.
Yeah.
And he goes, "What's that?"
The material safety data sheet.
And OSHA goes, "You don't know what an MSDS sheet is?" "Oh, I don't know what that is." And then the OSHA guy goes, "So do you know where it's located, your MSDS book?" "What's an MSDS book? I don't know anything." And so OSHA's like, "Oh, we got these people."
Yeah.
And so I wasn't allowed to be there because
Right.
you can't be there when they're interviewing. But afterwards, OSHA guy's like, "Oh, man, we got some problems." And I'm always upfront with them.
Yep.
Like, I want to know because I know people lie.
Oh yeah.
And I want to get out of it right then before he takes it back to his area director before it becomes a citation.
Right. You got
So I don't have to battle it in the informal conference. I
Exactly.
want to nip it in the bud right at that moment. So I always ask, I know I can't be there, right? Like, all right, what's going on? What are
Yeah.
you seeing? He's like, "Oh, we got problems. You don't have orientation training. This guy hadn't read the safety data sheet on the chemical. He doesn't even know what the safety data sheet book is." I go, "That guy?" I go, "Come here." So we went in the job trailer. I pulled out my orientation book. I said, "Do you remember his name?" And he did, because he had it written down. I
Right.
said, "Check out this orientation.
You
Check
start
out this
handing him
checkbook.
paperwork.
Check out this test question about where the safety data sheet book was."
Bum, bum,
And
bum.
OSHA guy was like, "Ah, man, I just got it. That guy got me."
Yep.
Like, he admitted, like, I was swindled. It
Yeah.
was cool. He was a cool guy. And
Well, that's nice. At least he wasn't just.
but it didn't become a citation because I was on it and I had documentation right
Yeah.
then.
Dude, that documentation really can't save your behind.
Yeah.
It's important.
So, yeah, I tell them about that statement on there.
That
And
was
that's one way you could enforce it right away, is having proof.
That was a Ron Snyder phrase.
Okay.
If it's not on paper, it's vapor.
If you didn't document it, it didn't happen.
Exactly.
I was always annoyed working in the hospital. Everything you did, you had to write, you had to chart, you had to document in 5 different places.
Ugh.
Wasn't one.
I don't know if I could work in a hospital.
I mean, now things are digital, and so it's a little more smooth.
It's
But
just
it's
all-
still there. It's still
Yeah.
over documenting. I mean,
You
but
just have it
it
on
get,
like a-
that's a lawyer thing. It gets you out of jail.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's talk about new technology for safety orientation.
Oh, there's been some actual really fun stuff. Even with one of the other companies I work with, for some orientations, they've only used it a couple times, but they have a VR machine. So virtual reality, and what they actually have for some of the job sites they walk on is they take the employee through the job site and show them hazardous locations virtually. How crazy is
That's
that?
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Site orientation using virtual reality.
Yep. Now they don't do that for their new hire orientation, which I know is kind of what we're covering. They're
Right.
doing that for
Well,
certain
it's the same-
specific sites.
I mean, I guess they are different in nature because you can
Yeah.
get hired by a construction company
Right.
and then go to a site orientation.
Right.
That's just geared towards the site. So yeah, but
I mean,
it still
it's
is
new
orientation.
tech.
It still is orientation
Yeah.
though. Yeah. So we're just talking about safety orientation.
Yeah.
So
I thought that was cool.
we
like,
should
I'm
go
glad to
down
see
that
it.
road too a little bit, talking
yeah.
about site orientations. But some of the tech that I've seen, and some of you guys may be shocked to hear me say this, but we have to do. Well, hold on. We got to do a dramatic pause. Okay, that was enough.
I was so dramatic.
That was a dramatic
So
pause.
dramatic.
I'm actually okay with online training for safety orientation.
Everybody in the room just gasped. Well,
And maybe people are like, "What's? I don't get it." Well, if you know me, I'm a live in-person trainer,
oh yeah,
and live in-person hands-on training is
it will always be the
fact
best.
check it, look it up.
It will always be the
Don't
best
believe me at all. Don't believe anything I say, or trust but verify.
Trust
But
but verify.
hands-on training, live training is far superior than any online training, than any video you could ever show.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We make it site specific, job specific.
Yep.
We could keep an eye when people are falling asleep.
We can use all the same visuals, content.
We know what they do for a living. It's not boilerplate.
Right.
It's designed for that company with their trade. A DVD you buy online is not going to ever be customized for your job, for
Nope.
your exact trade. So anyway, so that's always my speech, right?
Mhm.
But in this one particular case of orientation, I'm cool with it.
So just for orientation, because it's so awareness level, it's so basic, you're all right with somebody putting together like a site-specific orientation, just with their exact stuff in it.
Or
that
company
they would,
specific.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, just with that stuff they need for that new hire, and that would get a pass from you.
Yeah,
I mean, but it'd have to get done right.
of course. Would it be better if someone who knew all of those different safety topics was the one presenting the 3 slides per
100%.
policy? For sure. But some companies are hiring like crazy.
Oh yeah.
Like there's such turnover.
Yep.
They're doing new hire orientations all the time.
Yep.
And the ones we do is like a 3-hour one. We're
Yeah.
trying to do a really good
It's usually
legit
about-
job.
Yeah.
Like I said, 3 slides per policy, and some of these companies have 52 different policies.
Oh yeah.
So you're talking about a lengthy
It does. It gets to
time.
be out there.
Yeah, a lot of slides. But there are some companies out there. I've seen insurance carriers have them
Yep.
where they have this kind of like online learning management system portal that their insureds have access to, but it has ability for you to upload your custom-made curriculum in there.
Oh, that's cool. Here's something you may not have seen, actually, since I've been doing it so much, but some of the online safety services. IS Networld has adopted it. I think Avetta is starting to use some of it, and Veriforce is starting to put some on there. They don't have a lot yet.
We need
but-
to do a show on all them.
Yeah, we should. But IS Networld especially has actually added an employee learning portal now, where you can sign up any of your employees to take free online safety training. And then if they do, then they don't have to do certain orientations to get into certain plants.
Oh, well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it's the same premise. So, let's say we built a custom orientation, presentation, curriculum
Yeah.
for our client. So we went in there. Tell me all the things we would take pictures of.
Oh, I mean, everything. But, you
The-
start
the
with
toilet?
the layout. Sure.
This
Be
is the
safe in
toilet.
here. But your walking working surfaces we do. So there's actually a lot of pictures of like walkways. There's a lot of pictures of fire extinguishers.
Where the
emergency
fire extinguishers are at,
Yeah, emergency evacuation routes.
Okay.
If they have any plant diagrams,
where the
Um,
diagrams are. Okay.
right? And then we'll take pictures of any of the stuff they use. So if they use power tools, we'll try to include their power tools. If they use fall protection, we'll try to use their pictures of fall protection, hoist areas.
What if it was
They got,
not,
like-
not a construction company, like a general industry client?
Oh, then like their gantry cranes, their controls, their forklifts. Sometimes their forklift controls, depending on if they want us to do certain training or not. Their equipment.
I
maybe
was
it's
thinking
really-
like their muster point, their tornado shelter.
Oh yeah, well, I mean a lot of
you
that is
know,
going to be
all
on
that
that
stuff.
or the evac diagram is usually where I find that stuff, and I'll walk them through it on that picture. Be like, here's a picture of your plant, and then these are your.
But in our
Tornado.
orientations, we build there's separate slides for
Yes.
that. Muster points,
Yep.
tornado shelters, where the safety
Yeah.
data sheet book is, where the eye wash station, the
Yeah.
safety stuff.
If you get covered in battery acid, here's your eye wash station.
Yeah, here's your emergency shower. So we're taking pictures of that. We're customizing it. It's very site specific.
Mhm.
We're building this curriculum. We're not including stuff that nobody does at the company.
Right.
It's very dialed in. So then once that's created, then there's all this different, like I said, like cloud-based services almost, or through carriers or through standalone companies where you can upload your curriculum you made. And then it becomes online training, but it's specific.
Right.
So then you get a new hire and you go, okay, you log in with your work username and password. Maybe that's already set up, or maybe they log them in. And they're going through the presentation, and it could be timed if you want it or
time
not.
The slides and
So they're
ask
not just click in.
questions.
The task could be built in, so you don't have that paperwork. The roster is built in because they're logging in.
Right. So you
So it
have
has
all these
date,
files.
time, topic, student name, all of that stuff. And so you could have a checklist for that acknowledgement statement as well. But now it's all being tracked, and now personnel from the office isn't having to spend 3 hours to do that.
Yep.
And they're going through it. You still got all the same documentation. You could prove it. You could print it out if OSHA asks for proof. But it's convenient. So, I think that's better than somebody who got made to do the safety orientation and hates doing it and pencil whips it and does a terrible job anyway. I mean, might as well just digitize it.
Now, I'm gonna throw a wrench into that because I personally don't like take-home online stuff, and I really soured to it.
Take home online. You'll have to describe that. I don't know what that means.
If you can do it at work, that's great. Like if your employee can come to work, sit in the break room.
Yeah, they should do it at work.
Right? But this last year, we had a company who tried to get every single one of their employees OSHA 30 certified. And that was awesome. They actually did it. Every single employee at this one client got every single person an OSHA 30 card.
We should do a show on OSHA 10s and OSHA 30s.
And I'm not gonna throw gas. I won't say who or anything else about the person.
Throw gas?
Yeah.
Isn't it throwing shade?
Throwing gas on a fire, making things,
are they on fire?
Making a problem worse. Well, I know some people found out about it.
Okay.
So here's what happened. They didn't take their OSHA 30. It was online. Company paid for it. But this employee's 6-year-old daughter took the OSHA 30 online.
Well, that's always been the issue with online training.
Yeah.
There's so much flaws in it.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's no accountability.
I've seen it, before I was a safety trainer, when I was an employee, like in a hospital, and you had to do online training, and you got 3-4 nurses sitting around the computer.
Right.
One person's going through it. We're all seeing all the answers, and then when it's our turn, click, 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 boom, we're done.
You're done. Right.
And, we didn't really get much out of it.
Exactly. But when they're there in person, you can see if they're napping. I will always tell people, get in-person training done.
Well, for sure. But, as far as orientation goes, we stated that live in person would be better by someone who's trying.
But you can set up online training. And if you do, I recommend that you let that employee
But
do
I'm
their
being
work.
specific with the online training. I'm not just saying go to these conglomerate dealers of safety DVDs and buy safety orientation, because that OSHA's not going to like that.
No, they won't.
It's not specific to anything.
Right.
But I do think it's cool that you could build that, upload it, and it could be personless.
Yeah.
For this type of training.
I still think that's nice.
Because we're really after the documentation, and you get that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
want it
not
all.
for in-depth training.
Yeah. I want it all, man. I want that person leaving that class going,
Well, because
"Man."
you're a professional trainer. And so, but you may change your tune if you had to do this every single day because of the amount of turnover.
Right. Every week. What am I doing this week?
You would like,
Well,
you would be
3 more
like,
new
I'm
hires.
willing to sacrifice some of my paycheck to purchase this software, just so I don't have to do this dumb class
I would like
every
the break.
single day. You can
Yeah.
get burnt out. I knew a guy. He was doing safety orientations. He was a safety guy for a huge construction build. This is like a minimum 1-year project.
Oh, gee. Okay, yeah.
And
So this is big.
And workers could not work until they went through orientation, site orientation,
Okay.
which all legit general contractors need to do that.
Yeah.
All right. So it was this guy's job to do it. And that's all he did. Like, it wasn't his only safety job. He was actually the on-site safety director for the whole thing.
Right. He's supposed to
But
be
he
like,
never
on
could leave the
build
job
and
trailer.
He was just always stuck in
Because you could
orientation.
have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people on these sites.
Yep.
You could have upwards on the big products, like that CF expansion, 5,000 to 8,000 people.
Yeah, it was huge.
And imagine all those people, one guy orientating.
Right. Yeah, yeah. At that point, I'd be like, "Could we just have like a nice video
Yeah,
of
yeah.
this job site and what you need to know?"
Yeah, as long as it was specific.
Right? Going over the exact general's rules, the site-specific rules, the plant, whoever
Yeah.
owned all.
Again,
Yeah.
muster points, tornado
Yep.
shelters, everything they need to know for that site.
Yep.
So it is a convenience factor on there. So that's one of the few times I actually do recommend online training is
I can see it.
orientation, just for sheer volume. Now, some of our clients, they're only hiring somebody once every few months.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Spend the energy, do a killer in-person training.
And
Why
then that
not?
person, yeah, they've got a much better base. That
Yeah.
company's way better off.
But when you're doing these like every day,
Ugh.
you're never gonna get anything else done.
We did have a run there for one of our local general industry places where we were doing. It wasn't new hire, but when they got new hires, they all needed forklift classes.
Okay.
Oh gosh, do you remember that? It was like 2018. I was doing one for them every other week.
Was that when we would do the orientation and then 3 different operator certifications?
No,
Oh,
I know what
okay.
you're talking about though. We did those like a lot as well. I had to actually block that out. That was rough because that was, oh my gosh, that was so much. I was thinking about when we had those classes. I was going in and I'd get like 12 to 20 people, and they all had to get forklift.
Okay.
Oh man, and it was just, oh, that was a lot. I felt real beat up after those couple of months.
So there is some new tech out there for orientations.
Yeah.
There's plenty different platforms where you could create it and put it on there and make it all digital.
We
And
should
then-
have like a VR walkthrough.
And then AJ was talking about that virtual reality walkthrough. Let's go down that road of construction site orientation.
Like,
So
you use the wrong tool, you're gonna die. You're gonna
Let's-
start your VR walkthrough over.
let's pretend this person was already hired at the company and they were already new hire orientated correctly.
Okay, so they're in.
They're hired.
They've been
They're in.
orientated,
Maybe they've even worked there for a year,
but they're probably just going to a new job.
but now they're going to this new job.
Right? They won the bid. They're gonna go to this new place. Never worked for this particular
But let's
job site.
let's
or
do this
contractor.
scenario from the stance of this plant or this general that has to run these. They're creating now a construction site orientation,
Right.
not a
Site
new
specific.
hire.
Right.
It is just like a new to the site.
Yep.
Now, can we just say ditto on everything?
I mean, no. A lot of it, yes.
Okay, what would be the same as a new hire versus site?
Don't use broken tools. Don't hide your power cords. Don't use damaged.
Don't hide your
equipment.
power cords.
That's still
I
a
hate when
construction
people
rule.
hide the power cords from
Still a
me.
construction rule. But
What do you mean?
You can't conceal.
You can't put
flexible
electrical
cords.
tape on them.
The wording's weird now.
Okay, so
There's
you're
no
talking about like
concealed.
running it under a carpet so no one could see it.
No. This would be like, let's say you have a power cord that's going to be running a big piece of equipment, and so you run it behind like all of the job boxes or something, so that it can't get inspected every day.
Oh, okay, I could
you've
see that.
concealed-
I could see that.
Yeah, you've concealed the extension.
Inhibiting an inspection is always bad,
Yeah,
no
but
matter
they-
what
yeah,
shape or form
They
it is.
created some weird wording so you can't run it like through a wall, so that
Yeah.
it can't be inspected.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like all that stuff's still the same. So no damage stuff, no concealing stuff, proper lighting, proper illumination. Like all the regular stuff stays the same.
Muster points,
Things like muster points,
tornado shelters,
Yeah, where's the eye wash station?
eye wash stations, safety data sheet,
Yeah.
first aid
Fire
kit,
extinguishers.
pole locations,
Yeah.
pole stations for alarms.
So there's gonna be some site specific stuff though that always has to be taught. And then on construction sites, you have to notify where the big list of emergency contact is.
Okay.
You don't necessarily have to cover it in the orientation, but everybody has to know where and have access that is.
Might be a good idea to share with this new person to the site where all the confined spaces are so they don't go in.
Right. They are supposed to all be identified.
Right. So and I've sat through more than these than I'd ever care to.
Yeah.
Because they're not great training.
No.
And the guy, like I said, he has to do 100
Yeah.
in a week,
He is
and they're
burnt
just
out.
phoning it in. But one thing that I've noticed in a lot of these plants is PSM, process safety management.
Yeah.
So line break procedures, don't do it. Don't hit valves. Don't hit
Right.
buttons.
What are
they're-
their lockout
they're-
tagout rules?
Oh yeah, because and I think that's the main thing with these site-specific orientations is you need to tell everybody the differences between your site rules and maybe OSHA's rules
Yep.
or their company's rules.
Yeah.
Because
What are your scissor lift rules?
that's the weird stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's like where an employee may not know. You know?
Well, especially, and we were talking about that big buildup in North Sioux. At a certain point on the construction site, the actual owning company, when they started to get to a certain level, people had to start doing things like tie off while working on a ladder. And they were like,
Oh, because they
"We've
went
never
from
done this."
construction to that company's general industry rules.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so under OSHA, they were still on a construction site.
Right.
But because that was the controlling contractor,
Right.
that company was like, oh, but now you're going to start following our rules as
Yeah.
well.
So you need to orientate people
Yep,
to that.
they
And
gotta know that.
Those are actually challenging moments on a job
Mhm.
site when they go from construction to general,
Yeah.
or from general construction rules to the owner's
Mhm.
company rules. I almost think it's better to reorientate everybody.
Yeah, at least
Because if
have
somebody's
something.
been on that job site for a year,
Right, they're not going to remember that. Hey, remember 12
well, you
months
probably
ago when we
didn't
said
tell
we'd
them.
get to
You
this
probably,
point?
yeah, and you probably didn't go into detail on
No,
any of it.
not at all.
You may have mentioned.
Yeah,
Eventually, we're going to switch over to a different rule set.
right.
But now it's a pain to
Oh, my
reorientate
gosh.
everybody.
Well, like you said, I mean, 5,000, 8,000 workers?
But if you don't, like, you can't expect anybody to be following the rules.
No. You're going to walk around, hey, you got to tie off on that ladder. What?
I've been here for a year not tying
Yeah.
off on that ladder.
I have an OSHA 30. I've been through tons of OSHA training.
Yeah,
I'm on a
but,
construction site. I
20
don't gotta
minutes
tie
ago,
off
we
on a
switched
ladder.
the rules.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. This morning when you came to work, all the rules were
all the
different.
rules were different.
It's like, oh,
And that's
Cool.
just like how to get your safety guy hated by everybody.
more.
Yeah,
more
more.
hated. He was
How did-
already hated.
He was already the evil safety dude. What's worse than evil?
He's the diabolical safety dude.
He's the evilness behind the evil.
Yes, he's the odious safety dude.
But yeah, so those and we've seen our share of crazy rules
Oh yeah.
that are general contractors or companies that a contractor could have worked 100 job sites and never seen that rule. So it's
That's
super
it.
important you educate them
Yeah.
on those site rules.
That is the huge advantage of getting hold of those orientations, whether it be new hire or ongoing or even just updates. If
What's
you
the-
have that orientation and the documentation,
Right.
man, you will not only can the employee better follow your rules, and you could save some heartache from your poor safety person. They're gonna have some still, but that's one less talk
Always.
they gotta have to walk around with everybody. And
What's
then you got
the-
the documentation.
What's the weirdest job site specific rule you've seen?
Oh, in my opinion, it was that ladder one. That's why it always sticks out. Once you're 4 steps up on this ladder, you need to find a place to tie off. And so finally,
Right.
we had people taking a boom lift 60 foot high, making a I-beam chaser, running down a
Oh yeah.
an extension or a SLR, SRL, self-retracting lifeline, clicking into it, and then they could get that 4 steps up on the ladder.
Now I'm going
was
off
just like,
subpart X
what?
in the construction standard. You don't have to tie off at 4 or 6 feet on ladder as long as you're following the ladder rules.
You're correct. It actually says it in the OSHA standard.
And I know they revamped the walking working surface regulations in the general industry
Yep.
a few years back, which covered ladders.
Yep.
But I don't think that that's in there
Nope.
where you got to tie off
That
if
is
you're
a-
4 rungs up, unless you're breaking the ladder rules.
It is a specific job
Yeah.
site rule. They made it
Yeah,
up.
that's
and-
super annoying.
Yep, I thought that was the dumbest one I had ever seen because, in my opinion, it's like now we're adding way more danger and exposure. I got to put a guy in a lift with a harness and go 60 feet up, create an anchor point, run that all the way down to the guy,
Right.
and now he can use a ladder. And then when he's done, we got to go back up and take apart that anchor point.
You know, and I understand the motive
Ugh.
and behind it and the spirit of that law. But the craziest one I saw was where the general contractor, the plant, would not let anybody tie off in a scissor lift.
Would not let them tie off.
Would
in a
not
scissor-
let
said
them tie
no,
off. That was a
do
site
not.
rule.
Do not tie off in a scissor lift. Okay. What was their reasoning? Did they have specific
They actually
rationale?
had some knowledge, which is I was impressed with.
Okay.
There's Gen 1s, Gen 2s, and Gen 3s, scissor lifts. Gen 1s, no tie-off points.
There's 0.
Just guardrails.
Right.
Gen 2s, no tie-off points. And by tie-off point, I mean anchorage.
You have the.
But they had a restraint device on the floor.
They had a positioning device.
And then all the new scissor lifts, the Gen 3s, they have design engineered anchor points in them.
Yeah.
And so the plant's like, Man, we're tired of people tying off the guardrails in Gen 1s. We're tired of people using a fall arrest lanyard to hook into a restraint device in
Right.
Gen 2s. So you know what? We're just not going to deal with it. We're going to tell everybody, don't tie off in your lift. And then the other rule was, but if you have to tie off, like you're going to lean over the rails or something, then you got to tie off over your head,
So you got to find,
but
a
not
suitable
to the
anchor point
lift,
above you. Okay, I can see that.
which was completely crazy from any other job site anybody's ever been on.
Right.
So we got all these hardened tradesmen. I mean, these guys have been doing construction their whole life,
Right.
and they roll on site, and here we are, the evil safety dudes. Hi, sir. How are you? Welcome to our site. I noticed there that you've tied off to your scissor lift. In fact, you've done it correctly. It's a Gen 3, and you're actually
Right.
tying off to the correct anchor point.
That is appropriate.
I'm going to need you on clip.
As a safety guy.
Yeah, and they all looked at me like, what? You're a safety guy? You ain't no safety guy. You always have to tie off in the lift.
Yeah.
Because
They're used
site
to it.
rules, every site you've been on, you've had it, big sites. You
Yep.
have to tie off and scissor lift, which is not the OSHA rule, by the way. But it is
Right.
site rules. That
The
you,
OSHA rule just says if there's a site rule and it
it's mobile
supersedes-
scaffolding.
Yeah, if it exceeds an OSHA reg, now you have to go to that rule.
You know, in OSHA, 10 feet up on scaffolding, you have to have fall
Gotta have-
protection. But fall protection is guardrails, too. And all
Right.
scissor lifts has guardrails.
Right.
Hand row, mid-row, toe bar.
Yep.
But these workers don't know OSHA rules. They just know site rules.
Right.
And they've known every site they've ever been on, they have to tie off the lift. Now here I am telling them to untie
Don't
from
do
the
that.
lift. Yeah.
Don't do the safety
So
thing.
they thought that we were just total phonies.
Right.
And it
This
was
guy's
a,
a big fat phony.
it was a hard
Oof.
rule to enforce.
That's rough.
But that's the kind of stuff, if you were to have rules that go way above and outside OSHA, that you would need to alert those people to.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So anything else on construction site orientations?
I think we banged out most of it.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's
You
anything
should
like-
do them for sure. You should do new hire safety
Absolutely.
orientations, construction safety orientations.
I would take that a step further. You need to do them.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
not a should, man.
Yeah.
Like you are instructed to do these things.
People could survive some type of major disaster because of the knowledge you gave them. Sometimes it's embarrassing to do site orientations.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, I've had to mimic the alarm sounds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because you go, it's written down in your little orientation curriculum.
Right.
So you're like, all right, guys, let's talk about our alarm notification system. If you hear a whoop, whoop, then that means it's a fire and you are to evacuate. But if you hear a doot, 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 that means it's a tornado and you are to shelter in place. And like, I can never do the alarm sound justice.
I guess I would just enjoy that a little bit more.
But I never liked that because, like, who's going to remember that?
If you hear a klaxon, you got to do this. What's a klaxon?
You know, like you should memorize that. Like, if
Yeah,
I'm a worker
you
going,
definitely
this
need
is
to.
important.
Right.
All right, means this, and whoop, whoop, whoop means this. I know. I'm going to rehearse this in my brain every day. And then, you know, one day that alarm goes off, and they know, oh, shelter in place.
Right, that's an anhydrous ammonia leak. We need to get out.
Yeah, you know, that would be important, but I just never liked those systems
Where
because
it's a bunch of different noises.
yeah, for different meanings. Because if you goof it up, all right, so I'm supposed to shelter in place because it's a tornado, but I didn't memorize the dumb noise.
So you run.
So I
out of
run
the-
outside to a F5.
Yeah. That's it.
Or, like you said, it's an anhydrous ammonia leak, and I'm thinking it's a shelter in place
Right.
sound. So I run into a little room and I just die.
Yeah, you're just waiting out the storm, and then all of a sudden it's like, what is that? Oh,
Yeah.
and that's it.
So,
You're
you
gone.
know, I like better things, but that's the stuff that you need to cover in your site orientations. The
For sure.
alarms one as well. All right, cool. Well, I think we could close this one out.
Yeah, safely.
And everybody out there, if you need help with your safety orientation development implementation, give us a call. We'd love
We've
to help
made
you out.
so many of them.
And we'll just come take some pictures and ask you 1,000 questions, what you do, what you don't do, and
Oh, yeah.
we'll get it done. All right, guys. Well, for Mr. AJ Hanscom and Aaron Iacino, the evil safety dudes.
We're signing off.
Yeah, signing off is perfect because I can't say see you next time.
Right.
And it just sounds weird to say, hear us next time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to hear them next time.
No.
So
We're signing off.
we're signing off. So stay safe out there, everybody.